For this lesson, I'm going to be working with the provided Freddy character, and this is what I have right now. In my scene, I'm only going to have a single mesh that was constructed out of individual separated pieces that are intersecting in some cases, and in some others are just made out of a single one. The purpose of this file is to help you set up skeleton. So I'm going to be showing you a little bit of how I would do this skeleton in the first place. I would go to this view because remember, you have to create a skeleton that is going to be based on orthographic view. If you work on the perspective, then the joints are just going to shoot up into the infinity, and that's not really what you want. So I'm going to click on my create joint, and I'm going to find a place to position the first one. In this case, I'm going to be putting here in the hips. Now at that point, I can continue my chain going up or down. I'm going to work with the legs in this case because they are a little bit easier to work with, and I'm not going to be doing the whole skeleton on this video. So just a quick example here. I'm going to create joint 1. I'm going to create this one here. That is going to be my hip. This one here is going to be my knee. This one is going to be my ankle, and this one here is going to be the toe. This one is going to be, sorry, that was the ball, and this one here is going to be the toe. Now, some of them are a little bit offset. So for instance, here, this one is not entirely in the place that I want. I can select that one individually and move it. The issue is that if I move it, it is going to be moving the next. If I hold D, as in day, I would be able to move it just individually. So that is the same shortcut for moving the pivot point. I'm gonna move it a little bit over here. Another thing that you will notice here immediately is that I'm working on the local space, so I may want to switch that under my tool settings and say that I want to work into the world mode. At least for setting up these joints, that is going to be easier. So I'm going to move that one, and now I'm going to be working on the side view because as you can see, that is just going to be coming at the perfect center of the world. I'm going to select this one, and I'm going to be pushing all of them back. So the fact that I made this model with spheres, it makes it way easier for me to just position them in the right place. Something like that. I'm going to be working now with this one. So the sphere is going to be somewhat around here. That will be more or less the center of the sphere. I'm gonna go work with this one now. So I'm gonna select that one, hold D, and then I'm going to position it on the center of the sphere, which in this case is a little bit easier to work with. It's going to be this. Then the next one that I want is going to be this one. That is going to be my ankle. For this one, I'm just going to be moving it forward. Toes are going to be rotating somewhere around this point, and then the ball is almost to the center, so I'm going to be holding this and I'm going to be putting it in here. This is where, if I was going to be doing a sort of an impatient tab, it's going to be coming from this rotator, from the ankle. Okay, so now that I have that, one thing that is going to happen here is that these axes are not going to be in the place that they need to be. So what I mean with that is, if I select my Freddy, and I don't know if I have already a layer for this, no I don't, so I'm gonna select the mesh, I'm gonna make a new layer, and this layer is going to be my skin layer. I'm gonna hide that. Once I have that hidden, I can select or expand this whole chain, select all of them, and go to my display and local rotation axis. With that, I should be able to see all of the orientation in local space. The idea here is that you should have all of these points, all of the X's pointing towards the next in the chain, which seems fine, but not entirely if you take a look at the last ones, and that is because I moved them and positioned them in a new place. It is not going to be terrible for your first exercises whenever you're setting up the orientation of joints, but ideally what you want to have is all of them pointing towards the next element. The pelvis here is going to be a special case because the center of mass should be pointing towards the up in the skeleton, which I don't really have right now. So that's something I will need to modify down the road. I'm going to do the automatic tools right now. So I'm going to be selecting that under my rigging menu. I'm going to go to my skeleton and I'm going to say orient joint options. In here, I'm going to reset the settings to the defaults, and then the primary axis is going to be X. This is the most important one that is going to be pointing towards what the next element is going to be. So when you hit apply, see all of them are going to be pointing towards the next in the chain, except for the last one, which doesn't have anything falling down the road. The next thing that I'm going to do is take a look at this orientation. So ideally, I want to be able to rotate this only on one of these axes, but now these ones are not entirely what I have. See, my knee works somewhat okay, but the hip is not okay. I wouldn't be able to do a rotation. I can always work with the 3 values at once. So if I do a rotation like this, I can have that leg rotated, but notice that the 3 values are all wrong. So with that in mind, in some cases when I set up the secondary axis to be something like the z-axis and I hit apply, it helps, but not in all cases. So usually I like working with this: the primary axis X, secondary axis Y, and the axis world orientation to Z. Most of the time it's going to help me. If I take a look at this one, take a look at the value. So I'm bending the knee, so the value is going in a negative value, so that is fine. For the hip, sort of works okay as well. And in this case, everything is fine. But let's say that I was not entirely happy with one of these orientations. In that case, what I will need to do is expand or click on this button and then deselect this and select the question mark. That is going to let me directly select the axis orientation, and I can manipulate it and put it in a new position. So sometimes that is not going to work in your viewport 2.0, so you need to be sure that you're working on the legacy viewport. In here I can see them, but I wouldn't be able to select them, so I need to go work in a legacy default viewport. So at that point I would be able to just orient or change this axis, but also most of the time with the default Maya set orientation, the axis is going to be fine. So it's just a suggestion in case that you couldn't find it. Next thing here is I'm going to go to my I'm gonna rename these guys first. So this one is going to be my pelvis. This one here is going to be my hip. This is going to be the left hip. Even though I am seeing it on the right of my monitor, this is going to be the left of the character. So that's the one. This one is going to be my knee, L. This one here is going to be my ankle, L. This one here is going to be the ball, L. And this one here is going to be my toe, L. All right, so now that I have all of those, what I want to do is select this one. Also, I need to go back to my selection mode here. I want to select this one. Now this time around, I don't want to do double the work. My model is already symmetrical. So in this case, what I want is to select that and go to my skeleton, and I want to say mirror joints options. So in this case, these are the mirror planes. So what does X, Y mean? Well, in this case, if you take a look at where this line is growing and where this line is growing, you can sort of make a plane in between them. So that is going to be the XY plane. In this case, that's the plane that I want. But also Maya offers a really cool tool that says search for all the L's in names and replace them with R's. So when I hit apply, I'm going to have another one with basically the same orientation, just mirrored and duplicated. The mirror functions have behavior and orientation. In my case, it's duplicating the orientation because that's how I set up the model first. So chances are that you want to set up the orientations first before you do anything else. Now at this point, I know that this orientation needs to go up. So what I'm going to do is go back to this mode, enable this, select this, and then just point up to the next element in the chain. So something like this. I'm going to go to my orthographic view, so it's a little bit better, and probably I should have centered it a bit more. Now if I do my rotations, they are going to be coming in the z-axis, so probably that's not what I want. Yeah, so let's see, if I select this one, the value is the one that is changing, probably not what I want. Although to keep it consistent with the other ones, I think I'm just gonna leave it like that. Alright, so that was it for this lesson. Don't forget to hide your values because it's pretty obnoxious to see them, so I'm gonna have to select them all in here, and then I'm going to go once again to my display, transform display, local rotation axis, and get them out of the way. So they're like that. Remember that naming your objects is rather important. So from there, what I need to do is continue doing the chain for all of the individual joints that I have. So that is going to be it for this lesson. I'm going to go to do an incremental save, and I will see you in the next lesson.